What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to a very different episode of the Feed Your Fat Face podcast. I've got, one familiar face and one new face to you. I'm joined here by Carson on my left and my beautiful wife, Bree, here on my right-hand side. Hi. You've heard us talk about her a lot, but you've never seen her in front of the camera. Kevin has mentioned just needing some time, needing a week off, and so I thought, what a great opportunity to trick my family into joining me on this thing for an episode. So thank you guys for indulging me. How's everybody doing?
Doing good.
So good, man.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in your world, Carson. Tell us what's up for you, man.
Graduation coming up. Hooray.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
A little nervous, but definitely ready to be done with high school.
Yeah, I get that. How are you doing, Mom?
You know, it's kind of hitting me a little more, but I'm hanging in there. I'm excited for him. It's good stuff. Yeah,
tonight we had an exercise tonight at the school, the baccalaureate, and Carson gave a speech, and it was pretty real tonight for me. So
yeah,
we're crossing the threshold. But that's why I want to talk about this. This is an episode that's been on my heart for a long time, and I actually always thought, babe, that you would be the perfect one to join me for this conversation, and Carson too, because it's just been a part of your rhythms. But I wanted to talk about sort of the power of the shared meal, and that takes a lot of shapes. Like, for one, I think as a family, I think it's really powerful when families make a practice of eating together as much as they can. But as we were in ministry for a lot of years, we always believed, even when we couldn't do it as often as we'd like, that there was real power in a shared meal with friends and with being in community that way. That's how we started our first small group when we were planting our church, was we just kind of, everybody would eat together and talk about what Jesus was doing. And so in every culture around the world, it seems, there is something magic happens when people break bread together. I, for one, think that as a believer, that's a big part of why, those kind of the last things that Jesus left us were in the context of a shared meal. That's why it's bread from a table and wine from a table, I think, was very intentional by Jesus. So Anyway, and then as we're ending this, kind of transitioning into a maybe not fully empty nest yet, but certainly more than we have been, the idea of our communal meal is going to change a little bit. I thought it was just appropriate that we would talk about that a little bit. So I guess, Carson, I have always looked forward, but as growing up, what were your thoughts about, because we were a family who, most of your growing up, we probably ate together, I would say at least 3-4 nights a week or more. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was always nice just because, especially when we were homeschooled, y'all would be working during the day. So getting able to just kind of like recap and wind the day down with like a shared meal. One thing I always liked about it that I still like to this day is usually it means that I didn't have to cook dinner for myself. So that's always fun. But no, seriously, it's just good to kind of talk to each other and just be on the same page, kind of, but just like, I don't know, recap days, have people to talk to.
Kind of having one touch point, even when it's crazy. I'm curious from you, babe, was the family table with shared meals a big part of your growing up?
Yeah, I would say probably. I mean, maybe it's not realistic to say every night, but certainly I feel like pretty much every night. I mean, except I guess Wednesday evenings we were at church, but we always.
But even that, like, I know for a lot of years your mom prepared that meal.
That's true. Then we would have Wednesday night meal at church.
Yeah, even when she didn't, you were still eating a meal in the context of a family.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that was just part of our. It was just a matter of course, and we had dinner together every night. That was just what we did.
We ate together some growing up. We certainly not as much as you guys did. A lot of that was just a product of different schedules. Jason and I were both in sports at different levels. And Dad was really involved with the Little League, and Mom worked, and so there was a lot of just,
Right.
I found an interesting statistic. There was a study in 2022 that families were reflecting back most recently on a time like COVID, and they said that 91% of parents said that their family was less stressed when they were in the habit of sharing a meal together.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you?
No. I think it's you can get so busy, it's hard to keep track of each other and know where everybody's at and how they're doing and what they're doing. And so when you're having at least one meal together, you know, every day or every couple of days, I don't know, it just...
What do you think it is that makes it more stressful when you're not eating together? And that can be for you too. And do you agree with that stat? Do you find it less stressful?
Yeah, I would say because it definitely gives you a space of like community, just like knowing, kind of gets you a feeling of like, oh hey, like I'm not alone. Like, because obviously in most cases and scenarios, your family is your closest. So just having those people to be with and kind of like a refresher, like reminder that you have those people kind of can relieve that stress and pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it was in our family, I always felt like oftentimes in seasons I felt a little bit like I was kind of the odd man out. And what I mean by that is you worked from home for a lot of their growing up and you homeschooled them until Carson was in middle school, Abby was in high school. And so even though you were doing work things and school things, y'all had kind of this shared experience of the day. And it felt like for me it was my opportunity to re-enter into the family rhythm, which I really enjoyed, especially with a busy job in that season. But I think, so I think that was a big deal. That's why it was a big deal for me. And when I didn't have that, I just was very nervous that we were drifting or there were things happening that I didn't know about. And so what were some of your favorite family meals growing up?
I mean, you can never go wrong with a good steak. Steak dinner, that's always a steak with couscous and asparagus.
That was always a big go-to. We'd do butter bread sometimes if more so if mom wasn't around. Like that was more of a dad treat because mom would try to keep us somewhat healthy, which wasn't always on dad's radar.
And from using all the butter. But also, I really like the Kung Pao chicken tacos. And then we haven't had this in a long time, but one of my favorites has always been the salmon bowls, like the salmon and rice and avocado.
Yeah, those are good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm curious about that because we made an intentional decision. I want to be really careful. I don't want to make it sound like I was questioning anybody, but we had an opportunity to eat with a number of families with small kids before we had kids, like while we were dating and engaged. And a lot of times it felt like families were kind of like a short order cook, right? So mom's eating this and dad's eating this, and it's like everybody's making something different. And we sort of were just like, look, we're not gonna do that. Like our kids are just gonna eat what we eat. And so from a very early age, you and your sister ate. You know, you would eat salmon or other fish or shrimp, or you would eat, steak like you mentioned, but you would eat pork loin and you ate Brussels sprouts and you ate broccoli. And what was that like? Did it seem weird or?
No, it was. I'm definitely grateful for it now because like I see how picky and just some of these kids are, and I've gotten a lot of cool because not just eating at home, but through all our traveling, I've got to try a lot of unique things. And I always remember, quick little story, it was because it was like you said, it was just like if you don't eat what we're cooking, then tough luck. And I remember one time. I don't know why I didn't want to eat it because it's actually delicious. The like shrimp casserole
with the frosted flake or the cornflakes on top.
So good. I don't know why I didn't like that. Shrimp is delicious. Anyway, kid me didn't want to eat it. Still on my plate. I made a big deal, and like everyone finished. Still hadn't eaten it. You're not leaving the table. You're not leaving the table until you finish it.
Which, just so everybody can be clear,
or I think it was like take one bite. Like I wouldn't even take a bite.
I don't even know that our couch was a full step away from the table. It wasn't like we were abandoning you.
But still, because I remember this so vividly because it was the only time I ever got out of that rule. I went and I finally gave in and I took a bite of it and my tooth fell out and I swallowed my tooth. And then I guess y'all felt bad.
Because you were just crying. You were just,
you were so
it was
miserable.
such a commotion.
I remember I like took a bite and I felt like bit down on something hard and I was like, there's something in this is weird. And I swallowed and I was like, where's my tooth? And then I was freaking out.
There was another time around that time where I made some kind of fish or something for dinner. And I made it and you were like, through the whole dinner, you were like, Mom, this is so good. I love this. You just were so complimentary. And so then the next week, I decided, you know what, the whole family really liked that. I'm going to make that
you were
again.
Like maybe in kindergarten.
No, he was older. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the next week I make it again, and you said, Mom, what's for dinner? And I said, whatever the dish was, whatever kind of fish it was. And you just started crying. And I was like, what? You loved it. And you were like, I was just trying not to hurt your feelings.
Which, by the way, well done. I feel like I raised you up right. Be respectful, be polite.
Ready for early marriage.
Also know that sometimes it may backfire on you. So sorry about that. Bree, was it for you when our kids were little? Was it an intentional choice of yours? Like, I'm gonna advocate and prioritize us eating together as a family, or was it a product of we didn't have enough money to eat out, so it was the only option? Or
I think it was kind of a combination. I mean, to me, since I kind of grew up that way, I think it was a matter of course in a lot of ways. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna have dinner together. It definitely was a saving money thing, for sure.
I remember one time early on, I was still youth pastor, and if it hadn't been before, I felt like it was a time when it became intentional. So I think we had like life group on a Monday, and then I had youth on Wednesday, and then we had youth worship team on a Thursday, and then there were always like, fifth quarters and stuff on a Friday. And there was one time where you were and I actually remember because you met with my assistant too, and you were like, 3 nights, like, you're going to be home for dinner 3 nights. Even if you have to come home and go back, you're going to be home for 3 nights. And it felt like it became intentional, which I'm glad you fought for it, to be fair.
I remember we didn't eat out much for dinner. We were a big fan of those Kids Eat Free Tuesdays.
Yeah, we were, dude. Yeah,
I knew where all the Kids Eat Free things were. But we would still eat around the table, even if it wasn't our table.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember do you remember any of the specific Kids Eat Free ones? Like, did you have favorites?
I remember Free Birds.
Heck
we had Free Birds a lot. I remember this was more like a while you were at work thing, but we'd go back when $5 footlongs were still a thing at Subway.
Oh, yeah.
Mom would get a footlong and she'd eat 6-inch. This was when me and Abby were really little, and then we would split the 6-inch. Abby and I would.
My ridiculous sandwich take is well documented on Feed Your Fat Face. They know what I'm about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to think what else. There's another one.
When you look back on it, did it impact you enough? Do you feel like you're certainly not getting married imminently, but you're at that age where, in the next 5 years or whatever, certainly anything's possible. Is it something that would you champion for your own family? Like, is it important enough to you that you're like, this is a thing that I want us to be about?
Yeah, because I feel like it's really important and just staying close and staying in touch, because I feel like outside of that, and it's just easy to get busy now, especially with like a lot of distractions and everything. I don't know why that was so hard for me just now. Distractions and everything. I feel like that's just like a really important time to be in connection with your family.
Yeah. Yep, that's true. I wish Abby wasn't living in another city. She could be here opining with us.
Yeah, I was going to say we're missing one, so that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
What do you think it is about dinner that is unique in the way it brings people together? Like, what do you think it is?
I was thinking about this earlier. I'd say it's just from like, it dates back like a long time, like back in less civilized, I guess. Tribal's not the word I'm looking for, but like way back when, it's like, because obviously you hunt for your food and whatnot, so like eating was just like a vulnerable spot, and it's like kind of let your guard down to eat, like you're not worried about protecting yourself from lions or other tribes or anything. So kind of just built community and like being vulnerable and like sharing that together. And
I never thought of that, but I think that's really
especially
good.
when you think about another aspect of it, like most animals like hunt for themselves, and like but like it's a sense of community, like especially like I was saying way back when you kind of hunt and it's shared between everyone.
Yeah, I feel like genuinely never thought of that, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's universal. Like, there's no culture where eating a meal is not a regular part of, like, across all humanity. That's something we all do, and I think that's something cool. I mean, I think we've all experienced traveling other places, but I remember going to Mexico, going into villages. Every time we would go into a new village, when I was there, I did an internship there for 3 months, and every time you come into a new village, we might not be able to understand the people who live there, but we always shared a meal together, and somehow you always find a way to connect with people, and and it was always so fun, and it took a situation that could be awkward or strange, and it just makes it comfortable. Across cultures, across continents, across, no matter where you are, that's a unifying thing, and everybody lets their guard down, which I guess is kind of what Carson was alluding to.
I also feel like it has always been and is even in our culture today. It's like a kind of a built-in full stop, I like Mexico is a good analogy. My mind went to Mexico, like when we've been there on mission trips. It's like you work, but then whether it's lunch or dinner, everything stops and you sit down and you just tell stories. Remember, we had the same experience in Nairobi. It's like no matter what we were doing, and they do it even around tea, right? So like at 9 a.m. we knew you're gonna stop, you're gonna have a little bite to eat, and you're gonna have a cup of tea,
boiled eggs
and toast and tea. But yeah, and then at dinner we would eat. And everybody was there together, but I don't think we're a culture that stops, and I think that stops often. So having this kind of program, like, hey, we're just going to pause. I think that's a big deal. I think pause is an important rhythm. I think that's something I'm learning uniquely over the last year, is that pause matters. But I also think as you look back, even as Carson was saying, in generations past, when you're in a season where you're farming, where farmers are in the harvest or in the plant, there's all these seasons where you could literally work without stopping, and so the meal became that place where everybody stopped what they were doing. You sat down, you reconnected. Mm-hmm. What do you think has been the enemy of that? Because it doesn't feel like it feels like when we were still in ministry, we would all the time have people lament, I just feel like we don't have time. We don't ever eat together as a family, or we don't ever have that time. And the statistics are most families don't eat together, maybe one time a week. What do you think is it that prevents what works against it? Is it just busyness, or are there other factors you think that war against it?
I mean, I think it's mostly busyness. I mean, I think even us over the last couple of years, we don't typically have 3 to 4 meals together a week.
Unless you count Burger King on the way back from a baseball game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, when your kids get older. Ours are not here most evenings because they, have jobs and sports and all those things.
That was where I first
so
noticed
it's just hard. Trickier. And then, as the kids get older, we start doing some of our own things that we haven't had a chance to do. And so sometimes you just don't have time. And I know tons of people who have younger kids who aren't even teenagers yet, but they're in like 11 sports, and it's easy to make dinner together the negotiable, expendable thing and you have to be really intentional for it not to be.
That was the first time I noticed it getting hard, was Abby's 9th grade year, when she was running, and you were playing football and then running or throwing, you did track, and y'all had different schedules, and that was the first time I was like, oh, yeah, it's tricky. Mm-hmm. I would say, though, I would encourage families that for me, I think that it's a valuable thing to champion. You will have to make some countercultural decisions. We for one, in an era that says do more, we limited our kids to sort of one thing per season, so that we weren't going
when they were young, when they were older.
Yeah, when they were young. But we, like in the fall you played football, but you didn't do anything else. In the spring you played baseball, and you didn't do anything else. So
but then they have work and social lives and stuff like that.
No social lives. Mommy and daddy are your social life.
Alrighty,
sounds healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like I made it weird.
Ooh.
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you felt like family, either of you growing up or now, or Carson, any point in your life now, where you felt like the family dinner was a drag, or it was hard, or you're like, oh, I don't want to do this?
I mean, is he really free to answer this,
yeah,
honestly?
Of course he is.
No, I can't think of a time where I was like obviously there's times where, like, being a kid, like, man, I don't want to get off my video game.
Yeah.
But it's not like I was ever like, oh my gosh, I don't want to eat with these guys.
Yeah.
Maybe some of those teenage years. A little
Nah,
bit,
that was more Abby.
bit.
I mean, sometimes it was brief, but it's not like I was like wanting to skip
Yeah,
it.
it was more. Yeah, it wasn't like I don't want to be around you, but it's like okay,
Good.
I'm done. Bye.
Good. Fine.
Sometimes some of that was just like
Delicious.
the pressure and everything of just like high school and everything, like social battery drain.
Yeah. I also
Just
I don't
being a
begrudge you
recluse,
that. Yeah.
recluse teenager.
Yeah.
This just popped in my
That's
mind,
normal.
so it may not, you may not have thought of, but do you think, is there value? So you're going away in a couple of months, you'll move into Texas A&M, you'll be in a dorm. You hope to sort of build a clan pretty quickly of some guys and girls who are like-minded and on a similar track. Do you think, is it important, do you think, for you to, if you've got 2 or 3 friends that, do you think there's any worth in that discipline of like, hey, let's eat lunch together a couple times a week? Or
Yeah, I feel like it's different in the way that you would think though, because like obviously going in, I know I'm gonna have Dorian and like a lot of my friends. Like one of our big things we do is just like working out in the gym and stuff. So I feel like a lot of that goes with that. There's a lot of dieting that goes with going to the gym and everything. So it's less like, hey, let's sit down and eat together, and be more like shared misery of like the cutting diet and like kind of helping meal
seasoned rice together.
Yeah, just rice and plain chicken. Just helping like meal plan and do stuff like that. Like I feel like it takes a different form than traditional, but I feel like that's where it'll be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. What about for you, Bree? What do you think in this next season where it's largely just the 2 of us, does the family dinner become less important or more important when it's just 2 people in the family?
I would think it's very important. I mean, even in this season where the kids aren't home as much, it's something that I look forward to. Like, to me, whoever's going to be home in the evening, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be home, I never know. We've had to change our meal plan. I used to like meal plan every meal, and now it's more like I try to have stuff around that I can cook for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, because
we never know who's coming.
You never know until maybe, an hour and a half before dinner who all's going to be here. But I look forward to that, like whether it's 2 of us or 4 of us.
Do you think it'll be weird if we still invite Cam over for dinner sometimes while you're gone?
No.
Yeah, I realize that's the hard thing about when you've been dating somebody for 2 years. It's like you go away to college, but it's like, okay, we lose kind of 2 faces that we see all the time.
She can come over.
Yeah. Y'all have any other thoughts on communal table or food? Thanks for doing this with me last minute.
Yeah.
You have any thoughts? Anything to add?
Nah, man.
You guys are pretty good at this.
Carson is.
Yeah, it got a little slow here at the end, but I think that's...
Thanks, dog.
I didn't set anything up. Hey, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys sitting in with me, being part of my family, making my meals great. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Kevin will be back soon, and we are still planning on getting together and doing an episode on location at B Daddy's on Main in Bandera. They just opened up a new location.
Nice.
And so they've said they're open to us coming in, so we're trying to get that scheduled. But we wanted to keep our rhythm going, and so that's why I thought it was important just to jump on. And that's been a topic that's been on my mind. So as always, my man, thank you. Great job,
Yeah,
Bree.
dog.
It's a good job for an inaugural episode, man. You did a really good job. I'm proud of you. So thanks for tuning in, fatties. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that, I'm not going to steal Kevin's lines, but I hope you're safe until next week, and we'll see you then.